God, I love Borealis. I wish every city would get this treatment. Family! I'm over here on the PTR checking out the Holy Paladin rework changes. I know some of y'all won't have time to slide over to the PTR. Maybe you just like to be surprised. Or maybe like me, you're just getting fucking clapped in solo shuffle. And you'd like to see a little light at the end of the tunnel. Whatever your reasons may be, I want to offer this breakdown of the rework so far, so those of you who may not have time to fully engage in it can still give some feedback. So if you're interested, here we go. There's some pretty cool changes in this rework. Some of them are kind of meh, but I'll break them down and then you guys can tell me if you agree. But there's a lot to cover here, so let's get to it. We'll start over here in the Paladin tree. You'll notice it looks very familiar. And for the most part, it's pretty much the same. But let me point out a few things real quick. First off, you'll see Blessing of Freedom becomes baseline. So you just get this now. Great change. You guys know how I feel about Blessing of Freedom. One of my favorite abilities in the game. Completely underrated. Kick-ass ability. Love it, love it, love it. I can't decide if I want there to be a visual update for this ability or if it would just crush me because I'm a sucker for nostalgia. Love, love, love Blessing of Freedom, and now we're together forever like we're supposed to be. Hammer of Wrath. One of the changes to Hammer of Wrath right here. Cooldown increased by 100%, but the damage also increased by 80%. So Hammer of Wrath is kind of getting boosted up to be an actual execute, but not so spammy, which I like. However, there's some interesting play with Hammer of Wrath, and it gets some really cool play. For you Melee Wing fans, stand by. You're going to be real excited about some talent changes here. One of my favorite changes so far has been to Greater Judgment. Now when you judge something, on top of doing the damage, it also deems the target unworthy and clips a little bit of their damage every time you judge them. And I know it says 21,000 right there, and I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but you judge pretty consistently. And also, there's ways to soup up that number. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. One of the most recent changes on the PTR has been to this Touch of Light talent, where they increased it right here. Touch of Light healing increased by 700%. So now it's ticking for 27k. I'm going to bet you're going to see this picked up a little bit more. It just depends on how often this procs and things like that, but this got buffed up pretty big, so I'll test that out and report back to you. So right away, you'll see we still have the Shield of the Righteous talents, and that means, yes, we do still have Shield of the Righteous. So let's just go ahead and get this talk out of the way. But firstly, just cosmetically, you guys know me as a two-handed and Libram man. And I like Sword and Board T-Mogs too, but I'm just not a big fan of Shield Slam on a Holy Paladin. It's just never felt great to me. People say, well, it's great because it's off the global cooldown. Yeah, but it's not anymore. That's another change. It's now on the global cooldown. And I just don't feel like the ability feels good to push. You can grab this and give it some play. And I'm not saying this is the worst thing for 4 seconds. But, 3 holy power for 20% bonus armor. I don't know. It's not nothing, but it's just kind of boring. Up here, they increased its damage by 30%, and they gave it a little Crusader Strike play by reducing the Crusader Strike cooldown by 2 seconds. But I think my thing is just it's a boring ability. And I don't think I've just really ever cared for Shield of the Righteous. An interesting thing that would be kind of fun if you really want to spice this up is rather than just giving some passive armor bonus or something like that, take this PvP talent, this Searing Glare that no one's going to use at a minute cooldown for 4 seconds, and just maybe make it 2 or 3 seconds and give Shield of Righteous this Searing Glare effect. Maybe not a 20-yard cone, maybe just whatever target you hit with your, Shield of the Righteous gets Searing Glared for 2-3 seconds. I don't know, that gives you a little something, a little defensive, maybe a mini defensive for 3 holy power. I don't know. I'm not against Shield of the Righteous, and there's other things that they can work on to make me happy. I'm not too picky. It's one of those things where it's a fine ability. It's just not a fun one. And giving it some cool interaction might spice it up a little bit, since they seem determined to keep it. But I've just never been a fan of Shield of the Righteous. Shield slamming things as a healer is just weird to me. It feels like more like a warrior thing. Plus, like I said, I like the two-handed and Librams. But it is what it is. They seem determined to keep it, so hopefully they'll give us some interaction other than just passive damage increase in CDR. But if that's all we get, I guess it's good enough. There's bigger problems than Shield of the Righteous. So other than the changes to Greater Judgment, the buff to Touch of Light, some reshuffling of, freedom, things like that, the Paladin tree looks basically the same. But over here on the Holy Tree, it gets kind of interesting. The main theme of this rework or update or whatever you want to call it seems to be that they're moving us towards more Glimmer of Light play. Let's talk about Glimmering, just in case you're newer to the class or you're considering playing a Holy Paladin after seeing these awesome videos. Let me break this down. So Glimmer of Light is a product of our Holy Shock. So when you Holy Shock something, it leaves behind this Glimmer of Light. And then you can target another target, and when your Holy Shock comes off cooldown, hit that one, and it'll leave that a Glimmer of Light on that target. And you can have up to 3 of these out at a time. So all 3 of these targets. And you'll notice that every time I hit one of these targets or I send a Glimmer out, and this will refresh it if you hit them again. See, it refreshes that Glimmer. And then this guy's is coming up next, and I'll refresh that one. And every time I hit this Holy Shock, every ally with my Glimmer will get healed. Another thing to remember is you can put this on a bad guy and a good guy, and then every time you heal the good guy and or hit the bad guy, the good guy gets healed or the bad guy gets hurt. So these Glimmers can be used offensively or defensively, although I think obviously most of the time you're going to be using them defensively to heal. And when you see what the talents that build up the Glimmer play do, you're going to be very encouraged to pass this Glimmer play around. I really like Glimmer. I think this is a cool way to go. The only thing that concerns me about the Glimmer direction is we are already so susceptible to purging that without some type of purge protection, it's going to be rough. But there is an argument to say that it's pretty easy to reapply Glimmer. So I don't know that it's that bad either. So we'll just have to see. But that's just something with everything else, Bop and our Divine Shield getting dispelled. Glimmer just, I don't know. Glimmer also getting dispelled maybe. But we may be all right. We'll just see. I may just be being paranoid. That's what Solo Shuffle does to you. So that's Glimmer. And it's coming in hot and buffed up for that rework, family. And you'll see some of the talents that really soup this thing up. Light's Conviction. Holy Shock gets 2 charges. Sounds simple, but remember, this is how you apply Glimmer. And you're saying, oh, wow, Glimmer, whoop-de-doo. But you're thinking about old Glimmer. You haven't met new Glimmer. New Glimmer's stacked. And this lets you come right out of the gate in Arena and right on those 2 DPS. Pow, pow, Glimmer, Glimmer. And now your healing kit's up and rolling and you're ready to ball. Here's a new talent they're bringing in, Beacon of the Lightbringer. This is their solution to our mastery. So here's our horrible mastery now called Lightbringer, where it increases our healing done based on how close we are to the target. So the closer I am to my buddies, the more I heal for. And the further I am away, the less I heal for. You can see what a problem that would be in PvP in times where we need to hang back, especially in PvP like 40-mans or something, where you can really get blown up and, going in for melee wings isn't always an option. So they bring in this Beacon of the Lightbringer that makes it so that now it's based on proximity to you or your beacon, whichever is closer. So everything around, and most importantly, including your beacon target, is going to get your full healing. It's boring, it's uninspired, but it's functional, and this will fix a lot of the problems. I was honestly hoping that they were going to scrap it and come up with something else, but I guess this will work. These Lay on Hands talents sound nice, but Lay on Hands has a crippling problem, and it's called dampening. I mean, this is a 7-minute cooldown that is affected by every single MS effect in the game, which most classes now just apply passively. This either has to bypass healing reduction or it has to heal for at least a minimum amount of percent health, regardless of healing reduction. But the higher dampening goes, the worse lay on a hands gets. So reducing the cooldown doesn't matter much if there's uncapped dampening. Now, random battlegrounds, epic battlegrounds, rated battlegrounds even. Maybe not the worst ability, can save a tank, get that big cooldown, that big heal cooldown. But again, because it's affected by every mortal strike effect in the game, lay on hands is kind of lame on hands. Unending Light's the same. It just got moved up in the tree. This is a big PvE ability because you're just constantly spreading those Light of Dawns around. And then you're working up that big Word of Glory if you need to just pop that tank off after a massive hateful or something. But it's here. It's up here now. Here's the new talent node that revolves around Crusader Strike. The first one to the right, Radiant Onslaught. You guys are familiar with this one. Crusader Strike now has 2 charges. This is the new talent, Holy Infusion. Crusader Strike generates 2 holy power now and does 25% more damage. But you don't have the 2 charges given by Radiant Onslaught. The obvious prediction is that Radiant Onslaught will be used in melee wings, and casters who don't want to cast Crusader Strike as much will kind of stick with this Holy Infusion. This Crusader Strike node reminds me of the one in the red tree that kind of determines your playstyle just a little bit. I imagine this one will be just a little like that. So that's great. That's a cool addition. Divine Favor, my old friend. 60% increase. Heal on a giant flash of light. Cast time reduced by 30%. Look at it now on a 30-second cooldown. Always there for you. You don't give it the respect. Makes me fucking sick, the respect you don't give this ability. Who's there for you? You come out of a fear. You get stunned by another paladin. Just treachery, right? And you're panicked and you turn around. Your DPS didn't even pop defensives. Who's there for you? Divine Favor every time. Do you say thank you? No, you do not, but you should, and you'll learn to on a 30-second cooldown. Love this ability. 30 seconds looks good on you, fella. Over here, I almost feel like Betrayal. I don't know that I could ever give up Divine Favor, but this is kind of a cool ability. So this is basically an emergency cooldown that you have every minute and a half. It has a 1.3 second cast time, so you cast it, and then it makes your next 2 Holy Lights insta-cast and heal for 80% more. So I'll target myself, and then 1 instant Holy Light, another instant Holy Light. So that's Hand of Divinity. I'm such a Divine Favor man myself. Remember when I said Glimmer play is getting juiced? Well, let it begin. Glistening Radiance is a new one they've added. 15% chance to get that Glimmer heal or damage every time you use WOG or Light of Dawn. Of the Martyr is interesting. It's a cool ability, and I'm not even opposed to it. I mean, the interaction where you pay for it, for using it, is cool. The fascination with insisting that Holy Paladin keeps holy power, but insisting on giving them abilities that don't give holy power, or like not letting Judgment give holy power, is just weird. And that makes abilities like these hard to justify because so much of your kit is based around spending holy power, whether it's proccing Awakening, and we'll get down here where you'll see where it becomes, but cycling through your holy power is part of your rotation. And when you grab things like this, I mean, I get that they're supposed to be like there for emergency. Maybe you're in between holy power or cooldowns and you're using this to bridge that gap, but then maybe just make it a 20-second like mini life swap. I don't know. I get it conceptually. I just don't see that people, unless it's overpowered, I don't see how people are going to be able to justify the global cooldown. I mean, that's the thing that's always out there is kind of this check against, some of these unique abilities, is that there is this kind of global cooldown window that, by the time you may be ready to use one of these unique spells, you need to get back to your core rotation again. So sometimes it can be kind of hard to weave things in that don't add up. And you can see cases where if you're a holy power generating class, spending global cooldowns on things that don't generate holy power could be a problem at times. So maybe they could do something with this, turn it into like a 20-second or a 30-second, maybe just like a 10% health life swap or something. I don't know. But as it is, I can't see it really getting picked up unless it's completely overpowered. Illumination has been reworked so that you can put out more glimmers, but remember, the more you spread them out, the less powerful they are. Here's another new one, Bless Focus, where you can only have one glimmer, but its healing and damage is increased by 10%. Now, this is also significant because remember, like I just said, the more glimmers you have out, the less powerful they are. This is like the Omega Super Glimmer that you put out. I'm not sure 10% is enough to justify only having one. I think this might have to come up to 20, but we'll see. But this is such a fun node because it's two ways to soup up your glimmer. Say you're going into an epic battleground or a raid, you need to do some more AoE healing. Hey, we can get more glimmers out this way. Especially remember, this Divine Toll throws out 5 glimmers. Well, guess what? 5 additional targets right there. So you could get a bunch of glimmers out and be doing some crazy healing, or if you just got to keep that main tank up, or you got that friend in random battlegrounds that likes to just jump into the middle of shit and go crazy. Get it, Tiger. You know what I mean? This is for them right here. If you don't already know, the set bonus for Prism is pretty amazing this season, so I would go ahead and start working on weaving it in and practicing with it, because once you get the 4 set, it becomes very powerful. It gives you holy power, does a ton of healing on a 20-second cooldown. New talent, Light's Protection. This is another glimmer buff. Your spenders have a 20% chance to give everyone who has a glimmer an 8% damage reduction for 4 seconds. 20% chance means that this won't proc a lot. 8% isn't that much damage reduction, and 4 seconds isn't that long of a time. You know, maybe as a part of these like global glimmer buffs, this really does help up. But on its own, I don't know if 8% is enough. It's good. It's not bad, but we'll see. Every little bit helps. We'll see how that all adds up together. Sometimes as part of a bigger picture, it's a little more significant, and I may be underplaying how awesome this is, but things just seem to be exploding right now. So when I hear 8%, I'm like, whoop-dee. That's just maybe one more global. But this might just be there to kind of temper the damage. You add in this 8% damage reduction that procs on top of your judgments debuffing things, and it could all add up into a much better picture. I'll have to play it out. So I may be underselling this, but I'm just jaded by solo shuffle. Don't mind me. This new talent I have no question about. This one is amazing. Overflowing Light. It basically makes it so that half of your glimmer overhealing creates an absorb shield. It does have a cap, but it's 15% of your max health. So this is going to really keep glimmer play interesting, because if you can keep your 3 glimmers up and just keep cycling them around, if anyone's not getting hit for any amount of time, instead of that overhealing just get wasted. And let's just be honest, just in the nature, especially in PvP or Mythic Plus or raids, there's overhealing, okay? Because shit's going crazy and we're just trying to get it done, right? And so there is going to be overhealing, especially with the nature of burst and PvP. You've got to be kind of ahead of the healing sometimes, or you got to be pumping it just to keep up. So overhealing is a part of the game, and to not always lose all that overhealing and to get some of that back in the form of an absorb, I think is great. This is my thing about Shield of the Righteous play, is it's just not that inspired or fun. I mean, right here, it's a passive. It increases the damage by 13k, and every 5 Shields of the Righteous gives you a free Word of Glory. Come on, that's 15 holy power for a free Word of Glory. This is such a fun one. Judgment has a 50% chance to consecrate at the target. And so watch how great this is. You sling it out, bam, drops a consecrate right at their feet. So you give them that unworthy debuff, plus you put consecrate around them. And then in PvP, if you add this hallowed ground to it, where your consecrate clears and suppresses all snare effects on your allies, and you see when your buddy's getting pounded or chased or hamstringed up and they got a warrior on them, and you can sling this judgment out as a let my people go, motherfucker combo, right? And then that's going to free them up. It's also going to put that unworthy debuff on the target. And I just think this is what I love about Warcraft. They do this better than anyone, where they make this class play and it just feels like you're playing a paladin. You're throwing out debuffs on the target. You're freeing up your allies to get away, get some space and you're healing them up. They're shining. You got an awesome T-Mog, and it's just the fucking best. I love fun stuff like this. Keep them coming. Beacon node stays the same. You either grab Beacon Buddy or Beacon Bunch. Veneration was changed, and I love it. I'm expecting that 500% to come down, but it's been changed. It has two parts now. First off, it changes Hammer of Wrath into a Melee Wings Judgment Heal. And you'll also remember that Hammer of Wrath damage was increased and cooldown was increased. However, the second part of Veneration makes it so that if your Flash of Light, Holy Light, and Judgment critical strike, they reset the cooldown of Hammer of Wrath and give you a free one to throw. This is a crazy powerful ability, but I expect that 500% to come down. We'll see. The Avenging node here, Wrath has been reduced from 20% down to 15%. I'm not a huge fan of steroids in general, so anytime they get reduced, I'm for it. Avenging Crusader stays the same. The only thing is that instead of the 50% cooldown reduction, it's been nerfed down to 30%. And that, that 400% number, that's going to go up and down as they sort things out. You also get that 30% damage increase. But if you were worried about losing melee wings and you really like that playstyle, don't you worry about a thing. It's going to be better than ever. I'll go into Barrier of Faith when I go into this whole Tears Deliverance and to this row here. We'll just do these three in a row. Now we're getting down here to the fun ones. So this is a new talent, Daybreak, and its addition, Rising Sunlight. Let's go over these together. Let me demonstrate this Daybreak ability for you if you're interested. So, you're going to Holy Shock your target and you're going to get your 3 glimmers out. And once you have 3 glimmers out, or I guess whenever you need to, you can just hit this Daybreak ability. It'll trigger a big glimmer heal on all your glimmer targets, and then it will consume that glimmer. That's important to remember. Look, it'll take it. And then it gives me mana back, 4,000 mana per glitter consumed, which would be 12,000 mana in total. But you can do this every minute. It also triggers this Rising Sunlight up here, where your Holy Shock now is a super burst Holy Shock, 3-round burst to be exact. It triggers the 3 Holy Shocks and 3 Glimmer Heals in a row. And all that healing goes out. You just got to be on it as soon as it procs so that you get all 3 of them out. So that's Daybreak and Rising Sunlight. Excellent synergy, very dynamic. The 3 Holy Shocks in a row feel very powerful. Coupled with the Glimmer play, it just feels outstanding. Awakening has been reworked so that it's no longer an RNG proc, but rather it's just a reworked version of Aura of Reckoning. The PvP talent we used to run, Aura of Reckoning, is gone, and it's basically been baked in here. So the idea is that you spend Holy Power to get this Awakening stack, and at 8 stacks, you get that Judgment that does big damage and then procs you into wings. So if you watch me spend this Holy Power, I'll gain another stack of Awakening. I'm at 7 right now, so one more Word of Glory. I spend that Holy Power. Now I have this Awakening buff. This is Judgment will light up for you. It does 30% increased damage. It's a big Judgment. And then bam, now we're in wings again, baby. Ready to rock and roll. No more stacking from your allies getting hit. It's stacks from you spending Holy Power, but it's that same Aura of Reckoning interaction that you're used to. New talent, Glorious Dawn. 10% chance to refund your Holy Shock, plus another 2% for every Glimmer you have out. So 16% total if you're managing that Glimmer play like a champ, like I think we're all going to have to learn to. But we'll probably all suck at for a little bit, but that's okay. But then we'll get better and be awesome like we always are. Blessing of Seasons, one of my favorite abilities that we have. Just love how it cycles, love the different buffs and how to think about the best way to use them. Great gameplay. One of the great unique things about a Paladin. Really enjoy and adore this ability. This Blessing of Winter coupled with this Daybreak seem to have the potential to solve a lot of our mana issues, but it will still matter, how everything else is tuned around us. Before we discuss the Inflorescence of the Sunwell changes, let me remind you about Infusion of Light. This is an Infusion of Light proc. It's about to go away, but when you see this, if your Holy Shock crits, it'll give you that Infusion of Light proc. One of the big questions coming into this rework was what the hell were they going to do with Infusion of Light, because Holy Light really just wasn't even worth it. and you didn't even cast it in PvP. So there was like this healing ability that we actually didn't use. The changes up to this point are firstly that you don't get nearly as many Infusion of Light procs, as I get one right there as I say it. Now there's 3 ways you can spend this Infusion of Light proc when you get one. You know about Flash of Light, you've done that. Now you get a 70% reduction in mana cost. Holy Light, the one that didn't even used to be worth casting, now has this incentive where it generates 2 holy power to Flash of Light's 1 holy power. So you get an extra holy power if you get this Holy Light off. That 2.1 second cast time is still pretty long compared to the 1.3 from Flash of Light. But there's also, and we're about to talk about this talent, these Holy Lights can get to where they actually give 3 holy power, which is pretty incredible. Another way that you can use these Infusion of Light procs that's new, and this is a really neat one, you can use it with Judgment. And if you consume that proc with Judgment, it prevents 100% more damage done. And so those are the changes to Infusion of Light so far. You can either spend it on a cheap Flash of Light, a 2 holy power Holy Light, or you can increase your debuff from Judgment. Another thing you can do is come down here and grab this Inflorescence of the Sunwell. This talent has been changed. It's got a few parts. The first part is if you do happen to proc that Infusion of Light, which you do less now, you get an additional charge. So that's already a huge benefit. The other part is it increases Greater Judgment's effect. Remember that debuff effect that Judgment gives? It increases it by an additional 50%. Also, as of right now, it decreases Flash of Light by an additional 30%. And yes, that adds into that 70% that you already get. So as of right now, at the time of this recording, Flash of Lights are free if you have a Infusion of Light proc. I expect that to change. I don't know if they expect Flash of Light to be free, but maybe. And in that last part there, it causes every 3 cast of Holy Light to generate an additional holy power. So you can get like 3 holy power from one of these Holy Lights, which definitely makes Holy Light worth it to cast. One of the big complaints about Holy Paladin is that we had a spell that we didn't even use. The changes in this rework seem to address that problem and give Holy Light some play over Flash of Light. This Empyrean Legacy, I mean, the big deal with this was that it would proc Awakening procs, but you don't need it for that anymore. That extra Light of Dawn heal is nice, and I guess, if melee wings and all these Crusader Strikes and double charges of Holy Shock are just too hard to squeeze into the global cooldown window, I don't know that this Empyrean Legacy is going to be able to hold up to this one in its current state, but we'll see. Barrier of Faith stays the same. I'm not so sure Barrier is going to be grabbed over these other abilities, but we'll see. Tears Deliverance is just a 1.5 minute cooldown. That's basically a big hot. And then this ability down here does the same thing it did. It just extends that hot you can put up. So you put this hot up, and then if you hit people with one of those 3 abilities, it'll give you an extension of time depending on which one you use. So this row pretty much stays the same. And a quick look at the PvP talents. Avenging Light still here. They can get rid of this one. Ultimate Sacrifice. I know it's not always the competitive option, but it's a fun option. It's so great for when you have a friend. It's kind of fun on flag carrier maps to try to live up to that hero moment. Darkest Before Dawn, I can never get mad at this ability because it just, the synergy it has with Empyrean Legacy will forever live in my heart. Spreading the Word is still here, and this is crazy powerful in epics. Remember, everyone in your aura gains an effect when you cast one of these abilities. So your big DH is diving into a pack of Hordes and a 40-man. You throw up that Blessing of Protection to just protect him from all that physical shit, those stuns and all that stuff, so he can just get to work like that little emo Illidan he is. But everyone else in your aura gets a physical damage reduction of 30% for 6 seconds, which is really nice given the amount of warriors, hunters, ferals, and shit out there. Monks. Also, if you put Freedom on someone, everyone gets cleared of movement parrying effects. Now, there's a lot of micro CC and a lot of this stuff gets reapplied pretty quickly, but still, just that initial burst, and that's applying to everybody. So don't shy away from spreading the word, especially in epic BGs. You never see these talents mentioned because everybody's just looking up what's best in solo shuffle. Cleanse the Weak. This ability stands without fucking peer as the most powerful PvP talent in the game. And its most important purpose right now is it's the only thing even remotely close to keeping these boomkins in check. So, love you, Cleanse the Weak, forever in my heart. If you want to get a WoW tattoo, this is the one you get. This lets me know that you know what a good WoW tattoo is. You need this Cleanse the Weak. I mean, maybe don't actually, but some of y'all seem determined. So, fuck that Horde and Alliance shit. This is it right here. Hollow Ground. Love the theme. Love the fun. Throw it in with this Righteous Judgment, and it's going to be more of both. I'm absolutely thrilled. Can't get enough. Judgment of the Pure, you just got to be careful with the counter dispel mechanics. And then the other times it's just not great. And it's just you. So I just can't ever see this justifying a slot. I can't see any setup where you're going to take this over any of these other ones. Searing Glare, there's a lot I don't like about Searing Glare. I don't like the cast time. I don't like the minute cooldown for a blind with a 20-yard range that only lasts 4 seconds, especially not when most offensive CDs are lasting between 15 and 20 seconds these days. This should just get baked into something, or the cooldown's going to have to come way down. Maybe, I guess, if you got rid of the cast time and you could use it to maybe if you saw a priest coming into fear or a druid coming into clone, but I don't know. One of my concerns is that Forbearance is still in the game. I think this absolutely has to go. Our Divine Shield has counterplay with Mass Dispel and Shatter. Our bombs can be purged. Honestly, that's one of the things I don't see being addressed in this, is that we seem like we'll still be very powerful at what we do, but some of our weaknesses are still going to be there. We're still very susceptible to purge. Remember, Glimmer can be purged. Bop can be purged, and Disc Priests are still very strong, and we have no counter protection. So I don't know how that's actually going to play out. Now, if the rest of this is souped up to where we're just completely overpowered, then it won't matter. But that is something that'll be interesting to see going forward, if there is going to be any planned purge protection, or maybe if, some of our abilities, if they do happen to get purged, can still give some type of benefit. But no matter what they decide to do in regards to purge protection, I think we can all agree that Forbearance needs to go. It's just an unnecessary thing. It doesn't add any real complexity to the class that, to be quite frank, between the melee wings and everything else is complex enough. You don't need to have Forbearance in there. It's not preventing anything completely overpowered. And there you have it. Didn't I tell you to keep faith in the light? We got some pretty neat things incoming. I wanted to break it all down for you to give you some hope. I know it's been some dark times for the Holy Pally since the Dragonflight. We've kind of been on the back burner. But these changes could really clean things up and make Holy Pally a really unique and dynamic experience. We'll see where things end up, but there's some nice changes incoming. More work to be done, but they'll do it. And as always, I'll keep you posted. Nice talking to you, family. Oklahoma out.